We recently had the opportunity to actually play over an hour of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and our hands-on preview taught us a lot about the game. Returning items, what happens when you fuse meat arrows, different mechanics, and more. So, here are 20 big new details that we learned about the game. Number 1. We fused meat arrows. So what happens if you fuse raw meat to an arrow, making a meat arrow? Well, the internet asked, and we had to answer. Firing it off near an enemy will serve as bait. We fired this meat arrow near a moblin, and it was swiftly distracted by the food. It's about what we expected, but it's great to have confirmation. Number 2. You can throw materials. Did you know that you can throw materials instead of fusing them to arrows? If you press the R button to prepare to throw your weapon, like in Breath of the Wild, then press up on the D-pad to open the materials menu, you can swap out your weapon for a material and throw it. So here, we can see Link throw Ice Chew Jelly to freeze the enemy. Throwing materials can be helpful short range, while fused to arrows can be more helpful for long range. Number 3. Confuse enemies with Muddle buds. These purple flowers seem to put enemies in a confused or frenzied state. We see Link fuse one to an arrow, and when it hits the enemies, it creates a small cloud. All of the enemies affected by it begin to attack each other, and seemingly anything around them. This is bound to be helpful when dealing with large groups of enemies. Number 4. Bomb flowers are back. You know, the things from classic Zelda games? They work like any other material in the game, that you can pick up and keep in your inventory. Meaning, of course, that they can be fused to weapons. And trust me, it is just as explosive as you would expect. Number 5. Weapons cannot fuse multiple times. Weapon fusing is a huge part of this game, but it does have its limitations. If you fused a weapon, you cannot fuse something else to the same one. You can destroy or undo the fusion though, which frees up the original weapon once again. So, unfortunately, you cannot fuse some terrifying amalgamation of 3 swords, a rock, and a pitchfork or something. 1 item fused per weapon. Number 6. Link uses Zonai Devices. After the recent gameplay demonstration, we were trying to figure out what this green symbol means. Well, now we know that it represents this gumball machine, which is actually a dispenser for Zonai Devices. You put some Zonai charge materials in, and it dispenses random Zonai devices. And these devices are the different vehicle parts that we've seen in various trailers, like the fans, wheels, rockets, and so much more. Number 7. You can cook anywhere now, but cooking works largely the same way it did in Breath of the Wild. You pick a few materials to hold in the materials menu, then toss them into the cooking pot. But this time around, you can use a portable pot to cook anywhere. This Zonai device is a one-time use to cook something wherever you are, which I'm sure can be really handy when you aren't near any stables or towns. But there's another new aspect of cooking that's also really great: recipes. You can view recipes when selecting ingredients to cook, or when looking at the recipe of some cooked food from the menu. It brings up a nice scrolling menu of different numbered recipe cards, showing the necessary ingredients, as well as the effects of the meal. Number 8. The battery meter is tied to Link. During Mr. Aonuma's gameplay demonstration a few weeks back, we saw this battery icon appear when Link used the fan. Well, now we know more about it. These batteries are used when working with a Zonai device. It's almost like a magic meter, or a stamina meter specifically for these Zonai devices, and they're tied to these vials at Link's hip. So during our gameplay, Link has 4 vials, and therefore 4 batteries, as we can see in the menu. But we also got to see Link with only 3 vials, and likewise, only 3 batteries. There's also a battery Zonai device, which can be placed on the vehicle, and these batteries will drain before Link's do. Number 9. There's a way to streamline UltraHand. There are a ton of different things that you can craft with UltraHand, and thankfully, there's a way to streamline the process. We can't talk much about it, unfortunately, but rest assured that there is a way to speed the process up. Number 10. You can recall pretty much every projectile. We've seen recall used on a large spike ball, which we also got to experience ourselves, as well as on an Orthodox projectile in the latest trailer. But it seems any projectile can be recalled, if you can time it right. We managed to recall the small pebble being thrown at Link, and it goes right back to the sender. Number 11. New Sheikah Towers. We got to see a new Sheikah Tower up close. We can't tell you what it does, but this one in particular in Hyrule Field was surrounded by an enemy camp filled with tons of bokoblins, moblins, and even these new big bokoblins. Number 12. Some enemies are armored. When we invaded this bokoblin camp, one in particular stood out to us. And no, not just this big bokoblin revealed in an earlier trailer. This one, which appears to be wearing some sort of stone armor. So while it likely isn't stronger than other bokoblins, it probably takes a lot more hits to defeat, unless there's a way to destroy the armor quickly. Number 13. No new swimming mechanics. Swimming seems to be the same as it was before. We had the opportunity to swim around in some water, and it really does feel exactly the same as in Breath of the Wild. There don't seem to be any new swimming mechanics available, at least from what we experienced. So, as it currently stands, underwater exploration is looking pretty unlikely, unfortunately. Number 14. Using arrows while diving. We saw in Mr. Aonuma's gameplay demonstration that you can dive in the air to accelerate your fall, but did you know that while diving, you can also pull out your bow and aim in any direction? It's awesome, and it looks really cool too. Well, maybe not when you proceed to immediately splat on the ground afterwards. Number 15. Breath of the Wild runes are gone. During our gameplay preview, we saw no signs of the Sheikah runes from Breath of the Wild. No Magnesis, Stasis, Cryonis, or even the Bomb runes. Perhaps that's in part because of the explosive items like the Bomb Flowers. Plus, of course, Link's new abilities basically serve the same purpose as the original runes, with even more capabilities. Number 16. The menus are overall better. Navigating the inventory menu is much better in Tears of the Kingdom than it was in Breath of the Wild. The different tabs can be accessed with the L and R buttons, rather than needing to use the right stick for simple navigation. The layout and general structure is otherwise very familiar, but also much cleaner than before. Number 17. Korok seeds are back. Like it or not, the Korok seeds are here in Tears of the Kingdom, and they seem to do the same thing as before. So we saw some Korok puzzles during our gameplay, and we helped a Korok with a large backpack find their friend, which rewarded us with 2 Korok seeds, seemingly 1 per Korok. In Breath of the Wild, these would expand Link's weapon, shield, or bow inventory when given to Hetsu. We think they'll play the same role here in Tears of the Kingdom, since Link's inventory seems pretty limited once again. Who knows how many you'll have to collect this time around, but at the very least, it seems you can earn more than 1 at times. The description for the Korok seed is even the same as it was in Breath of the Wild. Number 18. The map is layered. While the map display looks pretty similar to how it did in Breath of the Wild, there's now a toggle on the left to change between the surface of Hyrule and the Sky Islands up above. It seems pretty handy. Number 19. Can we go treasure hunting? Link opens a treasure chest to reveal an old map inside, which indicates a marked spot on the map. So Link can go treasure hunting now? Will this actually be a case of buried treasure? Well, maybe a hidden treasure, unless we can actually dig for it. And number 20, no Labo VR. While we can't say for certain, we're pretty sure that Tears of the Kingdom will not support the Labo VR kit. Breath of the Wild made great use of it, but it seems the feature will be left behind for the sequel. It's hardly surprising, since Nintendo seems to have moved on from Labo years ago. But I'm sure some fans of the feature are sad at its apparent removal. And there you have it, 20 big new details we learned about Tears of the Kingdom from our time playing it. We only got a small taste of the game, but we cannot wait to get our hands on it in just a few more weeks. But don't go just yet. We've had a whole discussion about our hands-on time with the game, that you should definitely check out if you haven't already. Make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for plenty more on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Until next time, farewell.